What's going on there, everyone? Well, this is something a little bit different. I don't want to get mired in the nonsensical Ukrainian impeachment push and all this because it's just nonsense. But Victor David Hanson has written this opinion piece that, to me, really speaks volumes, and I think it'll reach a lot of people. So let's get into it. Victor David Hanson, members of the previous generations now seem like giants. When did we become so small? It's a good point. Very good point. Many of those stories about the gods and heroes of Greek mythology were compiled during the Greek Dark Ages. Impoverished tribes passed down oral traditions that originated after the fall of the lost palatial civilizations of Mycenaean Greeks. Dark Age Greeks tried to make sense of the massive ruins of their forgotten forebears. Monumental palaces that were still standing around. As illiterates, they were curious about occasional clay tablets they plowed up in their fields with incomprehensible ancient linear B inscriptions. We of the 21st century are beginning to look back at our own lost epic times and wonder about these now nameless giants who left behind monuments that we cannot replicate, but instead merely use or even mock. Does anyone believe that contemporary Americans could build another transcontinental railroad in 6 years? Californians tried to build a high-speed rail line, but after more than a decade of government incompetence, lawsuits, cost overruns, and constant bureaucratic squabbling, they've all but given up. The result is a half-built overpass over the skyline of Fresno, and not yet a foot of track laid. Who were those giants of the 1960s responsible for building our interstate highway system? California's roads now are mostly the same as we inherited them. Although the state population has tripled, we have added little to our freeway network, either because we forgot how to build good roads or would prefer to spend the money on redistributive entitlements. When California had to replace a quarter section of the earthquake damaged San Francisco Bay Bridge, it turned into a near disaster with 11 years of acrimony, fighting cost overruns, and a commentary on our decline into Dark Ages primitivism. Yet 82 years ago, our ancestors built 4 times the length of our single replacement span in less than 4 years. It took them just 2 years to design the entire Bay Bridge and award the contracts. Our generation required 5 years just to plan to replace a single section. That's incredible. In inflation-adjusted dollars, we spent 6 times the money on 1/4 of the length of the bridge and required 13 agencies to grant approval. In 1936, just one agency oversaw the entire bridge project. California has not built a major dam in 40 years. Instead, officials squabble over the water stored and distributed by our ancestors, who designed the California State Water Project and Central Valley Project. Contemporary Californians would have little food or water without these massive transfers, and yet they often ignore or damn the generation that built the very system that saves us. America went to the moon in 1969 with supposedly primitive computers and backwards engineering. Does anyone believe we could launch a similar moonshot today? No. America has set no American, has set foot on the moon in the last 47 years, and it may not happen in the next 50. Hollywood once gave us blockbuster epics, brilliant westerns, great film noirs, and classic comedies. Now it endlessly turns out comic book superhero films or pathetic remakes of prior classics. That's something that a lot of modern people could probably actually see and be willing to see that part. Our writers, directors, and actors have lost the skills of their ancestors, but they are also cowardly, and in regimented fashion, they simply parrot boring race, class, and gender bromides. that are neither interesting nor funny? Does anyone believe that the Oscar ceremonies are more engaging and dignified than in the past? We have been fighting in Afghanistan without result for 18 years. Our forefathers helped to win World War II and defeat the Axis power in 4 years. In terms of learning, does anyone believe that college graduate in 2020 will know half the information of a college graduate in 1950? In the 1940s, young people read William Faulkner, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Pearl Buck, and John Steinbeck. Are our current novelists turning out anything comparable? Could today's high school graduate even finish The Good Earth or The Grapes of Wrath? Half the epic books that even my generation, as a 33-year-old, got to read, our youth, our children, will never even see those books. A lot of them are too controversial in nature now. True social media is impressive. The internet gives us instant access to global knowledge. We are a more tolerant society, at least in theory. But Facebook is not the Hoover Dam, and Twitter is not the Panama Canal. Our ancestors were builders and pioneers, and mostly fearless. We are regulators, auditors, bureaucrats, adjudicators, censors, critics, plaintiffs, defendants, social media junkies, and thin-skinned scolds. A distant generation created. We mostly delay, idle, and gripe. As we walk amid the refuse, needles, and excrement of the sidewalks of our fetid cities, as we sit motionless on our jammed ancient freeways, as we pout on Twitter and electronically whine in the porticos of our Ivy League campuses, will we ask, who were these people who left these strange monuments that we use but can neither emulate nor understand? In comparison to us, they now seem like gods. This is something that I often think of with my family. We sit around, we talk about this because it seems very important. We're losing everything in this push to be progressive, in this push to a more globalistic society, which some people seem to really want. We're losing everything. We're losing our intelligence. We're losing our will to be better. You know, all this infighting from one American to the other. It's nonsensical. We've let party take over everything. It used to not be that way. Something has changed. The dynamics changed. We live in too polarized of a world, and I don't want to say it's all due to Twitter and Facebook and everything like that. They're just cogs in the wheel, so to say, of the situation. Everything's gone downhill, which makes no sense. We are America the Great. We are the best country by far, I think, personally, and I've traveled on this planet. We really are. There's no reason for the constant just deluge of hate. It doesn't make no sense. Hate and ignorance is supposed to be something that we've been trying to get rid of for I don't know how long. And we're just getting mired in it. We dig our hole deeper and deeper. We got to get out of this hole, people. And the only way we can do it seems hard to comprehend. Because I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out on my own, that's for sure. It's not going to be a single person that figures this out. We're going to have to come together as a nation once more. We're going to have to. Or we're going to lose our great nation. And no one wants to lose it. I'd love to hear your comments, and as always, like, share, and subscribe, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.